Hey there, art nerds! Today I'm going to show you guys how to paint a sparkling Christmas tree. This is the last of our 5 holiday Stashbuster watercolor tutorials. I hope you guys have enjoyed them. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below which of the 5 was your favorite and which of the 5 left you feeling the most inspired. I really like how this one turned out, but you guys are just gonna have to guess which of these 5 tutorials is my favorite. So I guess let me know in the comments below which one you think I like the best as well. So get ready to paint, grab your paint, grab your brushes, and let's paint this festive Christmas tree together. So the materials you're going to need for today's Stashbuster tutorial are pretty straightforward. You're going to need a scrap of watercolor paper. You're going to need a piece of chipboard to tape it to. You're going to need some masking tape. You're going to need some masking fluid. You may also want to have a masking fluid pickup. You can find those down at Dollar Tree. You're going to want some metallic paint or ink. You're going to want some white gouache, and you're going to want your favorite watercolors. Ideally some bright colors as well as some darker colors. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to secure our bookmark to our piece of chipboard. This could be the back of a sketchbook, it could be a piece of cardboard, it could be even some political signboard, whatever you have handy, using our masking tape. Once it's nice and secure, we're going to go ahead and activate our watercolors by giving them a spritz. I'm working with my Daily Driver watercolor palette today, which is a mix of my favorite professional grade watercolors, and I'm going to be working mostly with round watercolor brushes today. I'm starting with a large quill, and you could use an inexpensive synthetic for this, and I am also using a ceramic plate from Dollar Tree. I'm selecting some colors, so I'm doing kind of a chromatic wash here: yellow, red, blue, and finally green. You can use whatever colors in whatever sequence you want. This was just a sequence that I thought would be fairly pleasing to look at. I allow it to dry, and then I'm going to go over it and give it a second coat, allowing the colors to blend wet into wet. So for this Stashbuster, as with all my other Stashbusters, I really recommend that you work with a cotton rag watercolor paper for this one. I think I'm working with a scrap of Stonehenge Aqua, which, as I've mentioned in some of my other tutorials, I don't recommend this if you're utilizing a lot of masking fluid. However, this gives us a chance to demonstrate how to correct those mistakes. So I have my removable masking fluid in a small resealable jar. I'll have all the materials that I used linked out for you guys down in the description below, so make sure you check that description. And in roughly a Christmas tree-esque shape, so you know, narrow triangular, I am painting little round ornaments in various sizes using a synthetic brush that already has some brush soap worked into it. And if you think that's not a tongue twister, oh man, it was hard for me to say it. You can do varying sizes. I recommend some really large ones, some really small ones, and maybe keep the larger ones towards the bottom of the tree so they don't seem to overwhelm the top of the tree. I'm also going to do some masking fluid splatters just to add some randomness to it, and go back and kind of reanalyze and maybe add in. I'm going to allow that to dry fully, and now I'm mixing up some Payne's gray with maybe a little bit of undersea green, basically a grayish tone. I'm going to do an all over wash with a soft brush. This is just to add some depth to the background. I'm adding another layer, a little bit more saturated at the top, to kind of create a background atmosphere for this, so that we're going to have our background, our tree, and then we're going to have our ornaments. I'm also going to sprinkle in some kosher salt while it's still wet, but not all puddled up. And this is going to create kind of a snowflake effect in the background. So if you're doing this on, let's say, a postcard, you'll have lots more room for those background effects. I'm doing this on a narrow strip of watercolor paper because I'm trying to use up all the scraps that I save when I'm cutting down illustrations. But you can do this as a postcard, you can do this as a gift card, you can give this as a gift tag. Really, it does not have to be a bookmark. I'm just working with the scraps that I have. So I'm using a soft drafting brush and my finger to remove the excess salt. Once my watercolor had a chance to dry fully, you want to make sure you don't try to remove it before then because that can cause a lot of smearing. I'm going back into the masking fluid and doing another layer of ornaments. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I like that it gives some nice depth and it creates kind of an illusion of there being some ornaments further back in the tree than others. So now to paint our Christmas tree. I'm basically going to be working with 3 tones, starting with our lightest. I'm using olive green for this, but a cool yellow might work really well for this as well. And I'm not trying to cover the entire area. While that's still wet, I'm going in with a cooler, darker green. In this instance, it is Hooker's green. And again, still not trying to cover the area, and I'm really just trying to replicate the look of Christmas tree boughs. I allow that to dry, and now I'm masking off some of those like individual boughs that might be closest to our light source. So I'm using a smaller synthetic round with some brush soap worked into it, and just working my way from top to bottom. I allow that to dry, and now I'm going to go back in again with the Hooker's green, starting from the top and working my way down so that we're building up kind of layers of our greens. We're hopefully building up some color depth and some color interest. So not all areas are going to have the same amount of pigment. Some of them are going to appear lighter. Some of them are going to show more of the other colors that we initially put down to begin with. And it's just going to add a lot of liveliness and a little bit of magic to our watercolor illustration. Now I'm going in with, I think it's undersea green, but it might be indigo. Basically one of our, in fact, now I know it's undersea green. One of our darker green colors. What I like about this one is when you add lots of water, it does granulate out. So it's a really pretty, very versatile color to start adding in some of our darker shadows. And I'm still working wet into wet between the 2 colors that I use for each layer. And that gives us some really nice, pretty, soft transitions. Once that had a chance to dry, I'm going in with a slightly opaque, warmer yellow. This is going to kind of stand up against all that green to add some highlights to our boughs. And I'm keeping everything really simple, and I'm letting the brush do most of the work for me. So this could be a good one to practice confidence with your brush work, because it doesn't really make a big difference. If you make a mistake, you can easily fix it. Once everything fully dried, I'm using my masking fluid pickup to remove all of our masking fluid. I do have some areas where the masking fluid tears the paper, as you guys can see. So this will be a good tutorial for talking about how we can actually fix that. It's really pretty easy. It's basically just painting over that area. I also noticed that my pickup or my masking fluid removed some of the pigment from the paper in the areas that I was masking. And that does happen from time to time. So we are going to need to repaint those areas. Now, if you like how it looks, leave it as it is. You don't have to repaint it, but I was a little bit disappointed that we lost so much of that color intensity by removing the masking fluid that I wanted to go over it and actually use this as an opportunity. So I'm not going to repaint every single ornament. I'm just going to pick a few from each colorway to repaint them. And that will give us like another layer of intensity when it comes to the color of our Christmas ornament. So sometimes you can use those accidents to create something better or to take it in a direction that you hadn't originally been planning on going in the first place. So if you're new to my channel and you found me by Googling watercolor or Googling watercolor tutorials or Googling Christmas art ideas, hi, hello, welcome. I'm Becca Hilburn. I'm a watercolor comic artist and illustrator. I make the watercolor comics 7-inch Cara, which you guys can read, and hopefully you will, at 7inchcara.com. And I have loads of watercolor tutorials and reviews here on the channel. Like I mentioned before, this is one of 5 new easy Stashbuster watercolor tutorials that I created for 2022. But last year I have a bunch of fun Christmas art tutorials, and the year before I did something like 15 days of watercolor papercraft activities that I shared here on YouTube. So if you're looking for holiday ideas either for you to do or for you to do together with someone you love, I've got a bunch of them here. I'll link some of the playlists down in the description below for you guys, and I really hope that y'all will check them out. I love sharing what I've learned about watercolor over the years here on the channel, and hopefully you guys will enjoy what I have to say as much as I enjoy showing you guys. So I've been using this opportunity to kind of rework some of the ornaments, add in additional layers, add in some color depth, and just basically make it better. So in this instance, a little mistake like the masking fluid actually turns into something even cooler. So once those have dried, I'm going back in with Hooker's green, which is just kind of one of our base greens that we used for this, and I'm filling in those areas. And if they bleed into the ornaments, that's fine. I'm really not that picky about it right here. Unfortunately, when masking fluid tears up the paper, it does tend to tear up the paper surface, so you are going to have to do some reworking and be pretty careful with it. Once that dried, I'm going in with my undersea green, and I'm going to paint on top of my ornaments using a really small round brush, just some here and there pine needles kind of covering the ornaments so that everything doesn't feel so forefront, everything doesn't feel so in the viewer's face, and we're creating more of a sense of depth. This is really up to your taste and what you like and what you want to do with this, how much you choose to do, how large you choose to do them. This is a great opportunity to express some of your own individuality and really make this your own. I'm also going to add a little bit of splatter just because I can't resist. You can do this with a translucent or semi-opaque yellow like I'm doing here. You can do it with some red. Basically, it's going to kind of echo the colors of our ornaments. So I'm also going to do it with my ultramarine blue as well as my phthalo blue. And it's just going to add a little bit of extra color and hopefully give the effect like the lights are hitting the ornaments and then bouncing back off. And now it's time for the final details using some white gouache. I'm just going to add a little bit of a highlight towards the top. You could do just a dot, that's a simple way to do it, or a curved line at the top of our ornaments. Kind of depends on what you're feeling today. And you don't have to do it on all the ornaments either. If you're pretty selective about which ornaments get it and which ones don't, you can really push that sense of depth. then a little bit of extra splatter with our white gouache just to give the impression of light. So we're going to allow this to dry, and then we're going to do our gold ink splatters. Now, this is totally optional, but I think it makes it fun and it adds a little bit of shimmer. So I'm using Winsor & Newton's gold ink. It has brass in it, but you can use gold metallic watercolor, whatever you've got handy. And then once it's dry, we're going to remove our masking tape, pulling away at a 90-degree angle. And there we have it, our fifth and final winter 2022 Stashbuster bookmark. If you're looking for more easy to paint, no drawing skills needed Stashbuster watercolor tutorials, I've got you covered. I've got a bunch of them here on the channel, and I hope you guys will check them out. I will link them down in the description below. I had so much fun creating and painting these bookmarks with you guys, but of course they don't have to just be bookmarks. They can be gift tags, they can be postcards, they can be greeting cards, whatever kind of paper you've got and whatever you feel like painting, feel free to make it your own. Tutorials like this one are brought to you guys thanks to the generosity of my amazing patrons on Patreon. Here are their awesome names here. Thank you guys so much. Happy holidays and a happy new year. Bye guys.